Alright, our third and final thermal process is conduction. It's probably the second most common form of energy transfer behind radiation, because if you think about any time we come into contact with something, we're always transferring heat into it. The process occurs when a surface absorbs heat energy, excuse me, causing the molecules of that surface to vibrate with increasing or decreasing intensity for the duration of the contact. Actually, they will never vibrate with decreasing intensity if they're absorbing heat energy. They're only going to vibrate ever more. Conduction always occurs as a transfer of heat from the body with more thermal energy to the body with less thermal energy in order to establish a thermal equilibrium. If you think about a chemical equation, things are pretty much always in a state of dynamic equilibrium. Everything is going back and forth until you get to a point where no net energy is exchanged. And that's where nature likes to be, right there at that net zero energy. So when things come into contact, when you touch something, it's either going to go from your hand into the thing, or if the thing is hotter, like for example if you touch a stove eye or a hot stick, the heat from the stove eye or hot stick is going to go into your hand and burn you, more than likely. According to Matt Williams, there are 4 factors critical to the process of conduction. We're going to talk about 3 because the 4th one is not as important as these 3. The temperature gradient describes how much and from which body the thermal energy is flowing. So this describes either, relative. Say I'm touching a stove eye. Relative to me, heat energy is flowing into me, so the energy or the work done on me is positive. There's energy flowing into me, it's positive energy. But work is flowing out of the stove, or I'm sorry, not work. Energy is flowing out of the stove eye, so that would be negative. It's positive and negative signs kind of tell you where the energy is flowing from. Thermal conductivity describes the body's ability to conduct heat. You think, or not just heat, but energy in general. If you think of metals, metals are better conductors of electricity than nonmetals. They also can conduct heat better. For example, if you take a piece of wood and you throw it in a fire, when you pull it out, yeah, it's going to be hot, but if you take a block of iron, a chunk of iron, and throw it in there for the same duration and take it out, I guarantee you it's going to be way hotter. And that just has to do with the properties of the elements or molecules making up the substance. The cross-sectional area also plays a role, because the larger the area, the more difficult it becomes to distribute heat across that area. So for some examples, there's a classic example of holding an ice cube in your hand. If you take an ice cube, put it in your hand, where is the energy flowing? Well, they're in contact, which means that conduction is occurring. Heat is transferring from your hand, which is warmer, to the ice cube, which is cooler, raising the internal energy of the ice cube, vibrating molecules faster and faster until it begins to liquefy in your hand. Classic example of conduction. So in conclusion, there may be only 3 ways to transfer thermal energy, but the scope of their influence of our lives is unquantifiable. Literally, it'd be impossible to measure the impact of energy on our lives. We can just say it's really big. That's a very scientific approximation. Very big impact. So these processes make life possible and comfortable on this humble blue speck of dust in a cosmic sandbox of thousands. Carl Sagan once referred to Earth as the pale blue dot. And it's these simple physical processes that kind of make, they made us, and they give us kind of our life meaning, even though they may just be words to describe processes that happen. Without them, none of this would be here. And these are the references that I used. They're the ones where I got my information from, a lot of my information from. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed my brief presentation on these thermal processes, and I will see you next time.